We're back with another trip. Right now we're starting off Rome, right? Because behind us, it's actually not very well known for some weird reason. There's not a lot of people here. It's actually the spot where Julius Caesar got assassinated. So this is the Largo di Torre, Argentina. Originally this was the Field of Mars. But Pompey, who was actually Caesar's rival, had built up this area. He had built the Theater of Pompey actually behind us. Over here behind these temples. And it was the Curia of Pompey where the Senate would occasionally meet, where Caesar ultimately met his fate on 44 BC. Stop number 2 is the Pantheon, which is the most well-preserved building here. This was another temple for the gods. But the reason this one was preserved was because in 609 AD, they actually converted it into a Christian church.
Because there's a hole in the roof. You're like, why would you put a hole in the roof? Because water is going to flow in and flood the place. So what they did was they had an angle to the floor so the water would drain to the sewage, and they had a sewage system underneath it to drain the water out so it didn't flood.
I'm back.
You're back?
I'm back. Muffin is back.
What is the muffin?
Grease video, I was Muffin, so now I'm the Muffin.
Ow.
People on Muffin. Now I'm also Lily.
Behind me now is the column of Marcus Aurelius. Emperors of the time just wanted to build structures to reflect, how great they were and the power that they had. And this is one of the ones that Marcus Aurelius built, and you can still see today. We're on Via Rasella Street, which may seem like nothing. Not a ton of people here. But behind me in the wall, you can see some holes. In 1943, the Italian resistance fighters actually set a bomb in a trash can on the street and killed 33 Germans. And in retaliation, the Germans actually rounded up 330 men, executed them in a cave just outside of Rome.
It's hard to find
Right now, we are walking along the Appian Way. Basically, it was this long road that was built in 312 BC by the Romans for the Samnite War so they can more easily move, and also it helped benefit trade as well throughout the Roman Empire history. A cool story about the Appian Way is that after the Spartacus Revolution, they actually took 1,000 of the captured slaves who were fighting against the Romans at the time and crucified them up and down a 1 or 2 mile stretch along the Appian Way. Behind us is this arch, which is kind of reminiscent of like the Arch de Triomphe in France. It's actually the Arch of Constantine. All the different parts of it, he actually stole from different emperor monuments around the city. So I know like Aurelius, Hadrian, and Trajan all have different parts of their monuments that were stripped to build this. Made a little montage of everything we saw, so I don't talk about history too much, but I wanted to point out one thing that's kind of cool. Right now we're in the Roman Forum. We visited the Imperial Palace up there, which was pretty cool as well. But the best preserved house here is actually this brick one behind us. That was where the Senate met, and the only place that Julius Caesar would have recognized. But that's not where he was actually killed. That was in the first video. This was actually under construction that day, so that's why they killed him at the Curia of Pompey. When Julius Caesar was killed, he was actually cremated and burned right here, where they ended up building a little temple for him. So there's a remnant of his altar. Back behind us is the Colosseum, and they would walk down this street for any military marches where the emperors would throw like a parade almost to come back. We picked up a couple quick sandwiches. You want to tell them where we're going next?
Going to a museum, get to dress up in Roman armor, and they teach us about Roman battle formations.
Quick overview of that. The army wasn't a trained, proper army until the Samnite Wars. At that point, they became more of a paid army, but they became private military, so they would kind of be under their general, and they were still wearing chainmail armor. And then finally, Augustus made the army a proper, state army, gave them all uniform armor. But we did learn some of the formations.
Testudo was
Testudo was when, they had archers, so he was throwing rocks and arrows at us, and I was down and Walker had a shield over me. And then we also learned that they mostly fought with the sword and staff. They wouldn't slash because people were too close.
On the newer versions of the helmets, they had the ears open, which left them vulnerable to attacks in the ear, but it made it easier to hear the commands on the battlefield.
We're having pizza for the first time in Naples. I'm gonna give it a try. I'm a pretty big fan of that. How does it compare to the pizza in Rome?
This is all Naples. This is gritty.
Alright. What does that mean? We're at Pompeii right now after getting some pizza. A lot bigger city than I thought it would be. Walker wanted to share a fact that we picked up on today for you guys.
For the traveling merchants that came to the city. And they weren't allowed to engage with the women of the city, but in order to get around this, the city established brothels for them to go to where it was okay for them to relieve themselves. In these brothels, the women actually cost 3 times less than the men, costing about 2 coins compared to a man who would cost about 6. A glass of wine was also 2, so you could get a woman and a glass of wine for the same price.
Pompeii had over 100 bars. Gambling and bars were actually a very big part of Roman culture.
Are you not entertained?
I've always thought of basilicas as churches because they are today. But it was actually during the Roman Empire under Constantine, after he legalized Christianity. Christians wanted a place to, be able to meet and worship. And so it was too expensive to build more buildings. So he said, I'll gift you one in each town that you guys can use. And Christians pick basilicas. And that's why basilica started off as more of a courtroom, a place for judgment, but they turned into Christian churches after 300 AD. So we got the famous lemon sorbet and the lemon. I know Lily's excited for this. We were waiting for these.
A 9.8 out of 10, because nothing's amazing, but this is pretty close.
This lemon sorbet gets 5 big booms. Boom, 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 boom.
On the Amalfi Coast now, so we're gonna have a couple days just to chill out, take in the view. Should be nice. After this, we'll be on our way to Sicily. First jump, Amalfi Coast.
See, I told you.
What is the chef cooking us up tonight?
Italian seasoned pesto pasta with chicken.
Gonna get a good shot of these bad boys real quick.
What do you think fills this stuff?
I thought it might be good to grab a lemon. We got one right here. Squeeze some fresh lemon juice on the chicken. I met some friends at the bar the other night. One of them named Shauna took a cooking class, and she told me that these smaller, smooth ones are Sorrento lemons, and then the large, uneven ones are Amalfi lemons. There we go. The chef did a pretty good job.
Pesto noodles with some chicken and lemons that you can squeeze all over it. That Wilson cut down from a tree. Fresh lemon. And for me, some Coca-Cola while everybody else drinks wine.
We got this wine in Amalfi. It's from Mount Vesuvius.
Lecture me, Obi-Wan. I see through the lies of the Jedi. I do not fear the dark side as you do. I've brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire.
Your new empire? Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. I will do what I must.
One more cool thing about this, NASA tested their moon rover here a couple years ago. You can see how much like the moon it is. We just filmed their scene where the actual movie footage was filmed as well. We're finishing up our last about 30 minutes here in Catania. Walking to the fish market right now. But this was a lot cooler city than I thought. This was originally something I was gonna skip. But honestly, this is like one of the coolest cities I've been in so far. We're whipping around in the Audi right now. We got Carson on comms back here apparently, and this guy's on navigation. Right now we're crossing, it's called the Primasoli Bridge. So it's a river, but you can see it's really like a lot of marshland. But this spot was super important because this was sort of the opening to the Catania plains that would allow them to drive through the rest of Sicily and, effectively win the battle. What the Germans did was they actually parachuted troops in here when it looked like the British were about to break through, and they were able to make a very important stand for days and actually weeks on end to hold the British troops. The Americans were super ineffective with their parachute drops during this battle. There was one instance when they were bringing troops, I think they were called the Red Devils. They actually ended up killing through misdirection of the flights and allies shooting down the C-37s that were dropping off the troops. Over 200 British soldiers that were coming to land here.
Middle of the drive when Ian Asher came on, I just shut up and felt like I was back in Miami with a morgue in my hand.
Just to give a little idea, and this is one of the better roads we're on. This is the driving that it's been like, but times it by like 100 people and like driving next to restaurants. There's like no rules here, so everyone just does whatever they want. And there's only roundabouts. It's all roundabouts, but everyone does whatever they want at them. Not driving the alley though. It is a great view on this coastline. We're just gonna walk around Syracuse the rest of the night and see a couple places, grab some dinner. Syracuse was actually sort of back to our Greece vacation because it was the most important city on the western side of the Greece territory due to its fertile land, strategic location, and it was a major hub for science and math. And actually Archimedes, the famous mathematician, was born here and was here during the Roman siege of 212 BC. So eventually the Romans did take it over, and then it would actually become the capital of the Byzantine Empire at one point as well. So very important strategic city for all of these different powers. Currently at the beach in Sicily right now. Walker's struggling. He's getting some hot feet down here and getting roasted for not having a job. It is a nature preserve, so we had to like drive on some terrible road and walk for 20 minutes to get here, but not a ton of people and super pretty. So we're gonna go try to swim up.
If you have to call it Aura, I'm pretty sure it's not Aura.
Say we're in Marzinemi.
We're in Marzinemi.
In the old square.
In the old square.
No, we'll say it all in one.
We're in Marzinemi in the old square. Over here is where the tuna fishermen's homes were back in the 18th century. And then over there is the home of the most important family in the village, and also where the tuna fishermen stored their equipment.
Today we're just going around and visiting the little towns in Sicily. Right now we're in Noto, which is the Baroque capital of Sicily. If you look around the square here, I think this is the cathedral, and then that's the palace behind us that Lily just showed. They have some good shopping and markets around here, so nerd. We got some leather bracelets today. So we wrapped up in Noto, and now we're at Ragusa Ibla, or Ragusa. So this is the city on one of the hills here, and Sicily's actually pretty well known for their little towns being on top of hills. And it was a major point of the Sicily World War II campaign as well. Obviously a hill is a natural strong defensive position, and then the homes here are all built out of stone. So it was like pre-made mini bunkers for them. So it caused a lot of issues for the Americans and the British trying to invade these strong points on the hills. Fortunately for them, the Italians were occupying many of these and quickly just, evacuated or surrendered as the Allies advanced on them. I heard you just ask that maybe it wasn't worth the hour drive, right?
No, I didn't mean that. It's just because it's hot and there's a lot of steps. We've walked like 80 miles on this trip.
Yeah, but your body's gonna be tea though.
Already is, girl. Yeah.
We can't come to Sicily and not try a cannoli. We just walked 40 minutes uphill.
I was complaining a lot.
Let's see how you complain after we try a bite. So let's see it.
To look a little.
There you go. There's the look.
10 out of 10. That's really good.
Me and Lily had the cream ones, and then they got the ricotta. They're letting us try it. So this is the traditional way it's made, I think. I might like that even better, honestly.
No way.
What do you think?
Wow.
We got an early start to morning. We're heading to Malta at 4 a.m. I know some of the campers aren't too happy about it, but it'll pay off, give us a full day there. We're in the old catacombs here in Rabata, Malta. It's pretty cool. Fun fact, only 6 out of 100 people during the Roman times lived to the age of 60 years old, I think it was.
Wow.
A lot of the catacombs were actually turned into something different during the medieval ages, such as churches with an altar, or animal pens, or cellars for food. She was angry this morning for waking up early.
We had to wake up at like 3:30.
But you're happy now.
Because I got food, McDonald's.
Here we are. We traveled from 4 in the morning to be in the grotto of Apostle Paul. We knew he came ultimately towards Rome to be tried, but there was a shipwreck that landed him at Malta, so I wanted to come here and see his grotto. This is where he preached and he lived. But what's so cool about Paul is he was a persecutor of Christians. His name was Saul of Tarsus. And Jesus said, "Why do you persecute me?" and blinded him. And then I think it was Ananias. But Ananias was also approached by Christ and sent to meet Paul. And when Ananias met with Paul, that is when he got his sight back. And from there he turned and then he spread Christianity throughout the Mediterranean.
And he was here in 60 AD for 3 months, and then it was ultimately Nero, who they think beheaded him during his persecutions during 67 AD. The last stop here nearby is the World War II shelters that were dug out for air raids in Malta. The Germans tried to take over Malta, but ultimately were never successful. And I don't know how many times they bombed it, but I think it was quite a few. Right now we're at St. Peter's Bay. This is where Paul actually shipwrecked in Malta.
Can you wave runner in a better place than right here? Thumbs up.
Fun time. That's some good waves.
Right now we're in Valletta. First thing is we're going to the saluting battery, which for 500 years has been fired at noon. One cool thing about this is when I was in Maastricht, the fort there actually had the same cannons that they use here that are fired, and the tour guide then had mentioned that you can go to Malta, which is one of the last few places where they do a occasional firing of these, 16th century cannons. Right now we're in the Lascaux War Rooms, which is where the Allies commanded the invasion of Sicily, Operation Husky. Behind me is actually the room where they planned the operation. See the map of Sicily there, and then the commanders were in these rooms. They planned a lot of air defense here, and then also you can see Malta is a very important location as it has great control of the Mediterranean. It was a British colony, and the tour guide said they were able to sink 60% of excess shipping, and this was built in around 2 months. The Lascaux War Rooms was. So this was the air command room that you can see down there, and they would push the blocks around to monitor plane movements and set up air defenses, and then up here is where the sector commander would manage the situation. The Axis were never able to fully take control of Malta, but they did bomb it super heavily, and that's why the ability to have radar and manage air defenses from this location was very important. They were able to hold the island and eventually allow for the headquarters of the Allies to be set up here for Operation Sicily, which were the first landings on mainland Europe in World War II. Behind me right now is the Grand Palace of Malta, which is where the current president was seated during his term. But it was also one of the first major buildings built by the Knights of St. John, which were, the main inhabitants here from 1500 to almost 1800 before British colonization, then eventually independence. It also has a really good collection of their medieval armor that belonged to them. And the Knights of St. John were basically crusaders fighting in the Middle East and were eventually, kind of ousted, I think, by the Ottoman Empire and inhabited Malta. One last cool thing about the Knights is that there was a large siege here during 1560, and there was only, I would say, roughly 10,000 between the Knights and the local Maltese population. They defended against an Ottoman force of 50,000, and ultimately that's what led to the construction of Valletta, which is the capital city here in Malta, as well as the Knights being able to last a long time on this island until eventually Napoleon came. Just realized I never did an outro for the video, but yeah, overall super fun trip, but always fun coming back to 200 emails to go through. Yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in the next trip.